Well, well, well. We're back on the 17th floor. And more than that, I'm back with my two chums who moved in recently. So this is new for me, but not for them.
You're experienced campaigners, me and Mr. O'Neill, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We've forged a good relationship since you've been away.
No arguments, no disagreements. Peace has broken out.
So I'm no longer a member of the gang, am I? Martin and Neil, Simon, Jordan, missed you both. Good morning. Listen, you haven't been away and you look healthier than me, Simon.
Oh, well, back and forth. I go back and forth to Spain on the weekends. Easily done, isn't it?
Oh, have you?
You're now joining the Not Do Friday gang now, aren't you?
Well, that's right. I'll be able to join you out in your palatial place in Marbella. I'll be looking forward to that.
Did you have a birthday recently? Yeah.
Yes, I did, Martin, on the 16th of July, the day it always falls. And on this occasion, I was 68.
It looks really well for it, doesn't it?
68, ladies and gentlemen. And that was met by total silence. I was hoping that both Simon and Martin would burst into happy birthday to you, but they didn't. But I was 68 nonetheless. I was over in Santorini in Greece, Martin. I don't know if you've been in that part, though. Have you been there, Simon?
No.
Beautiful place. Tourism apparently 40% down in that part of the world. Quieter than usual, but a beautiful place. And it didn't stop people on a daily basis. Martin, you get a mention, but this fella, every day, they love the man Jordan. I was sitting in a deck chair in a remote beach. Someone comes up and pats me in the head. Nice to meet you, Mr. White. Tell Simon I'm Oscar. It never stops.
And that was in Santorini.
That was in Santorini.
Very good. Right, okay.
Santorini. I just while I'm on my hobby horse about what happens on holidays, I climbed this huge rock called Scaros in the middle of nowhere, 38 degrees. I get to the very top and there's a Manchester United fan waiting to speak to me. Did we think that Amorim will do it this season? Simon, it never goes away, I have to say. And when I left you, mate, things were at fever pitch. Palace very much didn't know, and they still don't know, but they'll know today whether it's going to be the Conference League or it's going to be...
Daniel Dubois was still heavyweight champion of the world.
Daniel Dubois was still heavyweight champion of the world. How was that, incidentally?
Well, it's a fabulous environment, but it was a disappointing fight.
Yeah.
Because it came and went so quickly without much of a participation from Daniel.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent myself, but I know less about boxing than Simon, so I'll defer to him.
No, it's more about music because he's been off to pop concerts and things of that nature, haven't you? He's been Oasis, Coldplay.
You did.
Coldplay is coming up.
Coldplay's coming up.
Yes. Yeah. Martin, you were also mentioned the other night when I was at Sandown Racecourse, and not for the racing, but Texas and Charlene Spiteri played to the thousands who stayed on that night, and it was a terrific concert. Charlene, a big fan of yours. Johnny McElhone, the bass player, huge fan of yours.
Oh, they are fantastic. Yeah, I remember the time I was up in Celtic, and listen, they've been brilliant for a long, long time. Yeah,
Charlene, good morning. Big fan of the show.
We've been all of us have been listening to good music, whilst Luke's been on a cruise of all the Blue Rinses, listening to the pub band. Doing his bingo.
Producer Luke is just back from a cruise, and as usual, an all-you-can-eat job, which he seems to love.
Yeah.
It was great the other night, incidentally, in the train coming back in from Sandown. Alan, a big Hearts fan, and Carol, good morning to you both. You enjoyed the concert and you enjoy this show. And to Mel and Richard, I had a wonderful weekend at your place over in Stamford. Do you know that part of the world, Simon, out in Lincolnshire? What a beautiful spot, rural Lincolnshire. Gorgeous. Do you know it, Martin?
Yeah, Stamford, the town itself is marvellous, really,
and the
really
little
beautiful.
villages off it as well. So we're back, and we're back for real, and it all starts now. And if you're a Palace fan, you're kind of happy this morning, but no doubt a bit trepidatious, if there is such a word in Mr. Jordan's vocabulary book, about what lies ahead as to what European tournament you're going to be playing in. Simon, again, so many people have mentioned to you how you produced Mr. John Texter at a time like that. I don't know, but you did, and he joined us in studio, having come over in the Eurostar from Paris to talk about how they're in this fix that they're in, Crystal Palace. But listen, 2 trophies in the space of a few weeks. How good is that for Crystal Palace fans listening this morning?
I mean, most people will look at the community. I don't know what he thinks of it. Martin thinks of the Community Shield. I don't see it as a trophy, but for Palace, I think it's wonderful because to be in the winners of the FA Cup and then play in the opening game of the season, whether I think it's an exhibition game or not, I still think it's a game that if you participate in, you want to win. It's another trophy. It's another environment. It's another opportunity for Palace to build from. And it's a confidence builder. It does not define Liverpool's season or what happens next.
No.
It's a great stage piece, and the Palace fans will be full of it because it is a great opportunity. And every time you beat Liverpool, there's always this sort of unspoken rivalry between Palace and Liverpool. It's not a huge rivalry. It might go back to getting beat 9-0 and then beating them 4-3 in a 1990 FA Cup semi-final. And Palace often seem to have the evil eye over Liverpool at significant times, whether it's when they were trying to win the league in 2014 with Brendan Rodgers or other opportunities. But a great spectacle, and well done to them.
And may I interject here just to let you know that over 40 odd years ago, I scored twice in that Charity Shield. Nottingham Forest beat Ipswich 5-0. Scored twice, and the second goal I scored was my last touch. Manager took me off the field. He took me off the field. The manager took me off, Brian Clough.
Listen, what does it mean to you winning that thing? Does it mean much?
Exactly as Simon said, it's I noticed now in modern days, people are putting it down as a big trophy to win. You're in the fight. Because you've won the league. We played Ipswich. You'd won the FA Cup, and it was a curtain raiser to the start of the season. It was still nice to win. It's great to win. If you got to go to Wembley, you might have won the game. But I don't think in the pantheon of greatness, I don't think it ever really counts.
Well, the thing of it is, though, Simon, as we might have predicted, it has been a very slow transfer window for Crystal Palace up until this point. So might it unwind if Oliver Glasner doesn't get some players in? And of course, it's not down to Glasner, it's down to people like Steve Parish and the rest on the board. This was Glasner on that topic.
We are short of numbers. And if we want to be competitive in all 4 competitions, what we want to be, we have to add players, and especially we have to add players with quality. Crystal Palace wants to play European football, wants to play 4 competitions, wants to climb the Premier League table and reproduce the success again. It's just what you have to do. So everybody knows this in the building. So of course it helps if players are in early when you start with pre-season, because here you have time to train.
So Simon, he wants more, he needs more, will he get more? Steve Parish, on that topic, I admire Oliver so much. He just wants to win matches and trophies. I don't mind that he wants to do that. Well, that's good. And I think someone at the club should do that. I have a lot of other things to worry about. It's crazy what people spend in the Premier League and the financial jeopardy people take. Is he going to get more? They need bodies over the line, don't they? They need more bodies in the building, as they say.
Well, if they want to evolve and keep on progressing, then of course you need to replenish and refresh, and you need to re-energise and create outcomes that are better for the following season, built upon a platform. And any manager worth their salt, and he is a very good manager, very much worth his salt, is going to push. So I don't think he's been particularly vociferous. I think I'd said to you previously that last year I think he was disappointed that he wasn't given the support that he might have felt he was entitled to, given the back end of the first season that he was there when he took over from Roy Hodgson and sort of lit the place up a little bit. I think he swallowed it. I think he got on with it and thought, okay, well, I've been given an opportunity in the Premier League. I'll manage my expectations. I'm not so sure that he should and will manage his expectations quite the same way this season, because you can't deliver a team that wins its first trophy in the existence of a football club, puts it in Europe, whichever European tournament it's in, and expect to go backwards. No, going backwards means not investing in the playing squad.
Exactly.
And potentially losing players subsequent. So I think that he has every right, within reason, to tub thump a little.
But Martin, did you ever use the media when you were a manager to push those above you, to get people in?
Well, I'm sure I probably did. But I used to think that there was a sort of a method in that there that you if let me put it this way, if the board are not listening to you, then you have to get it out there somewhere along the way. But I don't think, in my particular case, it was probably underhandedness. But certainly for Glasner, I don't feel that. I feel he has earned the right to get some players in.
Yeah,
they played yesterday. He's got a decent 11, 12, 13 players. He needs numbers in here. He could lose Gahey at that. I think Steve Parish has mentioned you wouldn't want him to run his contract down, go out for nothing, if there was a money coming in for him now, so he has to have a replacement for that if it happens. And I do think that for you've won the first trophy for a football club in its history. You followed up here, a pre-season. You've shown what you're capable of doing. He has proved himself there at this minute. I think he has earned the right to get the players in.
What's your hunch about this UEFA announcement?
I find it difficult. Well, I think it's you can never judge the room. Your basic assumptions based upon what you think you understand. And my understanding at certain times was decisive influence was easily provable. It subsequently wasn't easily provable. So I think it's a very difficult situation for Palace to overcome the current position that UEFA have installed. I don't think UEFA are going to rock into that hearing all robust and wanting to really defend their position. I think they're quite happy to see where the chips fall.
Yeah.
But I would be surprised. As far as Palace, in terms of overcoming the situation of demotion to the Conference League, as far as spend is concerned, there's no mitigation. They knew they were going into a European competition. I'm not looking to pile it onto Parish, but they knew they were going to European competition. They know by going into the Conference League, they're likely to go quite deep. And we know the budgets are pretty similar. If you get deep into the Conference League or get knocked out in the 16s of the Europa League, it's similar money.
Yeah.
So I whilst I understand Parish's sentiment, of it is madness out there right now, and you can't put everything at jeopardy. You also cannot say to a manager, you can say what you want to a manager, just don't expect him to be here. Because with all due respect, if you've worked the Oracle, and I'm always for managers doing within reason what they've agreed to do.
Yeah.
But there is a point where a manager's done more than you expected of him, delivered outcomes, and you don't deliver your side of the equation, which is give him some tools. You can't expect then for the manager to retain any motivation to be at your football club, and that's the consequence.
Martin has been in the same situation as Eddie Howe finds himself in regards to Alexander Isak, and he likened the situation to the one he found himself in with Gareth Barry some years ago. On that occasion, Gareth Barry didn't get the move that he was hoping for from Martin to, on that occasion, Liverpool, and he had to stay put. But are Newcastle fans in a forgiving mood to welcome Isak back, or is that relationship now tainted beyond repair? It seems, Simon, that every now and again, football throws up a story like this. And then some people will be happy with the outcome at the end and others will not. It is the nature of the game. But it always amazes me. I was up last season at St James's Park and Newcastle United fans adore this fella. And then it all changes. Should we just accept that's football?
Well, it is. I mean, there's certain football clubs that create a different culture in players. Liverpool are one of them in terms of the response to it. They're a legacy football club, as are Manchester United, as are Arsenal, I suspect, as are Real Madrid. And that's why these clubs can operate in a different way. I don't know whether Newcastle could have handled this better. I try to equate it to experiences that I've had in the past. And I can use the Andrew Johnson example, an England forward going down with a relegated side and being told in no uncertain terms, as were Everton at the time, he's not going. He's not going. So I don't care how much money you offer me, he's not going. And there's a part of me that feels that communication is an important part of this particular dynamic, which is Newcastle sitting in front of the scabby little agent and his opportunity, and the player and saying, get over it, you're not going. So you can go next year, but you're not going this season. So will Liverpool come knocking on our door, or they don't come knocking on, you're not for sale.
Right, but with the Andrew Johnson situation, that worked back then. Can that work today?
Well, that's my question of a circumstance. Can it work now? Can communication be clear? I mean, the fact of the matter is the player can't do what he wants. We will create the narrative in the media that he can kick up dust, but he has 3 years on his contract. So if Newcastle really want to stare it down, with all the wealth behind that football club, and really want to tell this player in no uncertain terms, you'll do it. Now, if the manager wants to intervene and say, this is just going to create mayhem, I'm going to have a player that sulks, I then, as the owner, can turn around and say, well, what the hell do you want me to do here? You want to keep him, I want to keep him, I'm prepared not to blink. That means you have to be prepared not to blink. Now, I don't know whether it can work in this day and age, but I don't see why it can't, because Newcastle are incredibly well funded, so they don't particularly need the money. They're not challenged by PSR, and they have the protection of a 3-year contract. The only thing that they have is the player's petted lip and the optics. And I don't know why that's so difficult to deal with.
But Simon, I know you'll hate this. Players hold all the power now.
They
do they not, Martin? The top players will get what they want because they are the top players.
Messi didn't get what he wanted when everyone in the media was going, he's going for Barcelona. Everyone was camped outside his house, and he got told by Barcelona, do as you're told. And he went the following season when Barcelona were prepared to let him go. So there is an instance where players, even at the highest echelon, can be put in their place a little bit. Go.
Did Andrew Johnson, did he stop training? He didn't do any of those particular things, did he?
He didn't get put in a position where that was a conversation.
Right,
He brought his agent down to the training ground, Leon Angel, and I intercepted the meeting and told his agent precisely what I thought of him, told the player exactly what was going to happen with him, and that was the end of the discussion.
Yeah.
Right, so what would happen today? Let's second guess this for me, Simon. Say Newcastle take that approach today. Alexander, come in. Bring your representative with you. You're staying. I want to go. No, you're staying. I want to go. He wants to go, and we're agitating for him to go because he's got his heart set in Liverpool. You're staying. So they would get up and walk out.
Yeah, but also the other side of the equation is then, and we discussed this on
He's not going to play for them against Villa this weekend.
And that may well be the case. But that's because the situation has been allowed to gestate for 3 weeks. There might have been a horse trade in the middle of that discussion. Right, you're on £120,000 a week. As much as it burns my backside because you signed a 3-year contract, I'm going to up your money for this year, and you'll go next year. You can go next year, but you're staying this year. And that's the end of the discussion. So you can now whether people are prepared to be that bold, whether it's as simple as that, I think things are as difficult as people want to make them. If people realise that the power in the room is the club that owns your registration, and you've got the preparedness to stare it down and go, I do not care. I do not. This is bigger than you. This is not about your individual move to Liverpool. This is about what happens inside this football club. This is how big this football club is.
Yeah, but the signs are when he chooses to train elsewhere.
Again,
he's made it abundantly clear. I don't want to be part of you lot anymore.
Am I oversimplifying?
But no. You've got a very, very good point. That's true. You can, even if you didn't want to do this here, extend his, not necessarily extend his contract, give him what he is probably due because of the calibre of player he is, and say you're going next year. That's a very, very good point. The other point is this here, is just to hold steadfast and say, listen, this Liverpool, we have a certain price. You're close, but not close enough. You're maybe 20 million short. You give us that price and you can go. And, you know, again, it's getting back to the point. I think if this conversation with Isak's agent and Liverpool had started, I don't know whether Liverpool would have said to them, listen, there's a certain price to which we'll go. And after that, we're not going any further. We will reach that price. And if that's the case, then that's fine. But what I really want to say is that the player himself will, let's say Newcastle say, listen, not at all. We're going to stay. We're not even going to extend your contract. We're not going to do any of these things. You're staying here because you signed this deal. I honestly think eventually
the player will do as he's told.
He'll do as he's told.
Yeah. The problem also, if you read not the tea leaves, but if you read in between the lines, it feels that there's a vacuum of leadership within Newcastle, and there's an expectation among Newcastle fans. What is happening here? We've got this enormous ownership model that seems to have enormous amounts of money, but is relatively compliant to the football establishment. It isn't pushing the envelope. It isn't doing what Marinakis has done at Nottingham Forest, who's going up there, spending what he precisely wants, and then arguing through the legal system about how many points he should be deducted. They're not building training grounds. They're not building new stadiums. So where is this enormous, powerful Saudi Arabian influence that they expected? Because let's have it right. In boxing, we've seen what it's done in boxing, just taken over.
Yeah.
Now, I would have expected the vacuum to be filled by Newcastle saying, you're not going. It's as simple as that. And Liverpool, if you do want to buy him, and we do accept an offer, it'll be no more and no less than £150 million. And that's the end of the discussion.
Right.
It seems to be we're filling the narrative. Everybody besides the people that make the difference are filling the vacuum with information rather than Newcastle. And I don't understand that. Having been an owner, and I understand the scale is different, it's only a few quantums different in terms of pounds and shillings and pence. I don't understand why there isn't strong positioning coming from the football club, whether it be the manager, whether it be the owners or whoever it is saying, this is how it's going to be. And then people would sit back and know where they stood. And let's see them, how big the players' balls are.
And this is breaking news, because top journalist Martin Ziegler, who works out of this building, is reporting in the last few moments that Crystal Palace are understood to have lost their appeal to CAS against the UEFA ruling that they must play in the Europa Conference League instead of the Europa League. The understanding is they have lost their appeal, and confirmation to that effect is expected in about 15 minutes. What does it mean? Confirmed as it stands, but it's understood that Palace have lost their appeal to CAS against the UEFA ruling that they must play in the Europa Conference League instead of the Europa League. Wonder if John Texter is listening, wherever John Texter is in the world right now. Well, we've got Simon beside me, former owner of Crystal Palace. Briefly, Simon, I've just run over into the break, but tell me your initial reaction.
That's what I expected. Now they can get on with it, can't they? Now they can go and win a European Conference League and have another season in Europe.
Yeah, but what a mess.
Well, of their own making.
Who's making?
Of their own making, of Palace's own making.
Sure.
You know, whether we want to bring Textor in it, want to bring Parish in it, they knew what they had to do, they didn't do it. Whether we like the rule, and it's a bloody stupid rule because currently 2 teams are in the Europa League, A, that didn't qualify there, and B, that would have been, if they'd been in together, i.e. Lyon and Palace, that had no shared ownership. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a victimless, it's almost a victimless crime. But the fact of the matter is that's the governance. There's a whole raft of discussions around it, but Palace can move on now, know where they are, they're in Europe, they're playing in the European Conference League, go win it.
Martin, from Glasner's point of view, give me the manager's take on it. Will he have second-guessed that this would be the outcome?
I think so. I think that I'm with Simon there. I think that they didn't make the deadline. I think the deadline was the 1st of March or something, I guess, here. They knew what they were getting into. Yeah. So it was no surprise to me. Now Glasner can say, OK, we're in this league, but there's more games in the Conference League for them. So we need these players in, and they need them in now.
It all hinged on the former co-owner of Crystal Palace, John Textor, who Simon persuaded successfully to join us in studio here in the news building at London Bridge some days ago. And he came in from Paris and did just that for us. And it all hinged on John Textor and his multi-club ownership, which involved him, which involved Botafogo in Brazil, and it involved Olympique Lyon in France, and of course his co-ownership of Crystal Palace. And at one stage, he almost sort of offered up an apology in advance of what was about to be announced today to the Palace fans.
When I got into it, I was so sure that it would be so long before Palace was in the situation that the evolution of the rules is happening very quickly. UEFA is trying to address this. So many clubs are owned by multi-clubs. There are a lot of benefits. It's not just a business strategy, it's a collaboration strategy. I honestly thought they'd fix it before I had a problem. And, you know, that's an apology to Crystal Palace fans because, you know, I just never contemplated this would happen this quickly. And I'm not running Crystal Palace. I'm not paying attention to it, you know, as much as I might have were we in a majority position. And then this conflict happens and it's like lightning striking. And suddenly we beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final. And it's a horrible situation.
Do you think this will bring about, Simon, a change of this multi-club ownership ruling?
Well, the rule is very clear. It's been in existence for 17 years. It hasn't stopped other people from complying with it, has it? Man City have had a multi-club ownership. They get booted out of Europe for it. Everyone knew the rules. Palace didn't comply with it. He made the point, and despite the fact he was proffering an apology, he was not proffering an apology, really. He was telling you that he doesn't run Crystal Palace. Go look at the person that does run Crystal Palace, with all due respect. It's got nothing to do with my rancor with Parish. It's a fact. You cannot categorise this as Textor. As much as I think John has got many questions to ask, and be answering in other areas, they sold them their bloody shares. They took his money, they put it in their pockets, they funded their football club through COVID, and then they blame him for it because they didn't do the due diligence that complies with a rule that's 17 years old. And then they turn around and suggest that it's because they don't read their emails.
So, I mean
it's ridiculous.
Steve Parish is making noises such as, you know, if there's any sense in the world, we'll be allowed to play Europa League football.
He's right. Because it's a ridiculous rule.
It might be ridiculous, but as you say, the blame lies at Parish's feet this morning. That they've been demoted, and they have. They've been kicked out of that, and they'll play Europa Conference League football next season.
I mean, look.
But that lies at the feet of Steve Parish this morning.
Look, it's an unfortunate set of circumstances because people will say, and Palace fans will look at it and go, why is it always us? In 1990, we were third in the league, and because of other teams' behaviour in Europe, like Liverpool, we couldn't play in European competitions. Right? In 1994, the league decides it's going to reduce the clubs down from 21 to 20, and Palace finished fourth from bottom of the league with 49 points and get relegated to Division 1. And here we are now in a situation where Palace have defied the conventional wisdom of being successful. And by the way, let's not lose sight of the fact that you can win any of these competitions, like the League Cup and the FA Cup, and get into a European competition. And half the teams in the league are able to achieve it. So the fact they didn't prepare for this is poor. And it's very easy to make Textor the villain of the piece. If you want to make him the villain of the piece with Lyon, fine. You can have our questions to argue over there. If you sell your shares to somebody, and then you allow him to go buy a majority shareholding in another football club, and you don't resolve the issue for a rule that's been existing for 17 years, and then you watched it play out in 2017 with RB, so you knew the parameters, you knew the dynamics of it, then it's on you. And you can blame...
On who?
On the current management of Crystal Palace. It's on Blitzer, it's on Harris, and it's on Parish.
But Textor has played a part in this. Of course he has.
What, by buying shares that you sold him?
Simon,
you sold him the bloody shares.
He admitted in the studio, 15 floors below us, and he said it publicly when he was in with us live. When the Palace boys came up to get the cup, I thought, no, oh, God.
No, he contradicted himself. What he did was he played to the gallery. What he did was at the beginning of the interview, he said, I knew nothing about it. And then he contradicted himself. And when we lifted the cup, I went, oh, right?
Yeah.
So he contradicted himself a lot during that interview. And I've told him that he said one thing and did another.
He's as much to blame for it as Parish is, as the other people at Palace that you've just mentioned.
The only thing that he's to blame for, and I'm quite happy to blame him because I have no vested interest in defending him against Parish, despite what people may or may not think, is if he was asked to put it into a blind trust and he stopped them from doing it. And that may well be the case, but we've had no evidence of anybody turning around and saying, besides Parish, who turned around and said, I can't make somebody do something. That was his explanation when he was interviewed by Carvey Solokol. I can't make John Textor transfer his shares. The next question should have been, or did you ask him? Did you insist? Did you explain the ramifications of it? That question was never asked, so we don't know the answer to that, as to whether Textor was an obstructive force, as to whether Eagle Holdings holding it in a corporate entity was an opportunity not to put it in a blind trust, because you can't do it that way anyway.
Here's the thing. Do you concede this morning, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here because you're a former owner, but to a degree I will. The former owner, Textor, and the current owners of Palace have let their own fans down. Here and now, let their own fans down.
Well, it depends how you want to frame it, right? If I'm
asking you straight.
Well, I'll answer it straight. If the bankrolling of the football club through COVID, when no one had any bleeding money, saved the football club from a worse demise, then unfortunately the yin and yang in this conversation is there's that Texas involvement, which facilitated some solutions in one area, has created a problem in another. You can't have all the upsides of ownership. You can't have all of it, and then ultimately out of the ether comes a problem. It's bad diligence on the board. The board is Harris and Blitzer, and Parish has executive control. Now, Textor's not blameless, but how can you ask somebody to pony up 100 million quid, put it in your pocket, sell him the shares, and then blame him because you didn't do the due diligence to make sure that it didn't compromise the outcome of the club?
He's a bright guy. My God, of course he is. No. He's a multi-billionaire. He must have known the rules somewhere along the line.
He told you in an instance, and this is where Textor comes up short sometimes. He's not across the detail. I tell you why he's not across the detail, because he's an investor in football. He's not running football clubs. What John is looking for is an opportunity.
Good enough? Do you think that appeases the Palace fans?
I think he's a businessman in football. He's not a football man. So I think there's detail that evades him. And I think if you listen to John sometimes, he is not deep on detail. And it surprised me the lack of detail that he has, because he's a businessman who's trying to monetize sport. And the answer to your question is, yeah, he should. But who should be holding his feet to the fire? The guy that runs the bloody club. Who runs the club?
Would he?
Sorry.
Would Textor have known going up Wembley Way that particular afternoon that if they did win this here, there might be a problem?
Well, he said at the beginning of the interview he didn't know. He said at the end of the interview when they won the cup, he put the cup in his hands and he went, "Oh, whatever." Right?
Yeah.
So if he did know, who created the problem? Him and Parish and the current owners. Now, with that in mind, who had the ability to resolve it? You can't. Again, I can't make the point without seeming as if I'm biased towards Textor and prejudicial against Parish. I'm not. I couldn't care less either which way, quite frankly. Palace are still in Europe. They could go win this competition and have 2 seasons in Europe, and that's probably more advantageous. I look at it and say, how can you take somebody's money and then blame him for the fact that you took it and you didn't do it properly?
Having said all that, and I know you probably want to punch me in the face here, did you not say when all this erupted, won't happen? Won't happen. They'll stay in the Europa League.
Shall I tell you for why?
You did, didn't you?
I did. Shall I tell you for why? Because I believe that Parish had a strong enough case for decisive influence, and clearly he didn't. My understanding of the situation was there was no debate who ran the football club. No debate whatsoever, and it was easily provable. Well, it wasn't, was it? So if you believe that from the outset, and I'm not in their boardroom anymore, I don't know what the mechanics of their shareholders' agreements did tell, but I had a reasonable assumption based upon what I'm led to believe by the controlling influence of Crystal Palace Football Club that decisive influence was easily provable. Well, it wasn't. And he even said himself on an interview, which gobsmacked me, well, influence can come from anywhere. It can come from my son. It can come from fans. No, influence is, no, I've got no influence. I make decisions.
Would this have happened if you'd still been at Palace and you invited Texter to the party and you worked with Texter and you won the FA Cup? Would this have happened, or would you have seen this coming?
I would have taken, first of all, I would have taken advice from lawyers about the construct of the situation where because Texter bought Leon after he bought Palace.
Right.
The problem is Leon, and he bought Leon after he bought Palace.
Okay.
So I would know my position and either take a view on it or take my medicine.
We'll get
Go on, Martin. I also think that Simon, being a footballing man, would have probably have known the rule at that time.
It's official. I'm just looking at it now. The Court of Arbitration for Sport denies Crystal Palace their appeal. In their words, CAS has dismissed an appeal by Crystal Palace, etc., etc., etc. So Crystal Palace will play in the Europa Conference League next season, even though they won the FA Cup at Wembley. And Nottingham Forest have said thanks very much, and they take Palace's place. One other big name is on the move because Everton have agreed a season-long loan deal for Manchester City's Jack Grealish. Martin O'Neill is alongside Simon this morning in studio. What's left of the morning, just a very few minutes. What does this do for Grealish, do you think? Is this a huge opportunity for Jack to get back in the pitch and show us what he can do, Martin?
It is an opportunity for him. His career, if it hasn't regressed, it has stalled at least in the last 18 months. Didn't play very much football for Manchester City, so he has got to get out of that football club. I think Man City made it clear he didn't go to America with them. So this is an opportunity for him to get back to what he is supposedly capable of doing. And this is the point. He was a big fish at Aston Villa. He'd stepped in at Man City, and to his eternal credit, he did really well. The year that they clinched the Champions League, he had a fantastic time. But yeah, you get the feeling with Jack that your celebration, which should last maybe 2 weeks, I think Jack's probably lasted about 2 months. And I think that you can take the eye off the ball, and you find yourself, other players are coming in. You can't live in your laurels or what's the phrase?
Rest on your laurels.
Rest on them, of course it is.
You can rest and maybe occasionally rest on them.
I think I've tried to live on them. But anyway, but at the end of all, this is an opportunity for him. He's got to get back again. If he's thinking about getting back to England, and that will be difficult, then this is a move for him.
Is this a coup for Everton, Simon?
I don't know. I mean, we see these signings of players that are big names in football clubs that go out on loan and seem to very rarely do anything meaningful. We saw Raheem Sterling go to Arsenal, nothing. We've seen Jadon Sancho go to Chelsea, not much. And if I applied myself, I could probably name a few others. In this instance, Jack Grealish, it's not his fault he's a £100 million price tag. He never was a £100 million footballer. It's interesting to see the way David plays, because he doesn't feel like a Moisey player to me in any shape or form, because the big criticism at West Ham was once upon a time he didn't have the toolkit to be able to play ambitious football. Towards the end of his tenure, he had talented players in the middle of the park in Paqueta and Kudos, and he still didn't play a game of football that the West Ham fans enjoy watching. For Jack Grealish, he needs to play. I assumed he'd go to Napoli or somewhere like that, rather than go to an Everton side that, whilst it's got this wonderful new stadium and it looks absolutely phenomenal, the stadium, they still have a long way away from going back to being a very competitive side in the Premier League that's looking upwards rather than downwards. But they've made the deal. And I mean, I think it has jeopardy written all over it. I think there's a lot of money involved in players' wages, and very rarely do these work. So I feel this is a deal that could benefit neither one of them.
I mean, David Moyes knows his way around. He's been around for a long time now, Martin. If anybody will get what he wants out of Grealish, it's probably David.
Well, I'm sure he'll throw down the gauntlet to him and say, listen, this is it. This is your opportunity. You've got to come in here. We will get the ball out to you as much as we possibly can. It's up to you to do something about it. But there'll be other times where they'll miss out. It's a big season for Everton. They're stepping into the new stadium. It's there. Jack, it's an interesting one because he will be wanting as much of the ball as possible. My thoughts about Jack were he can shield the ball brilliantly on his left hand side, terrific. But he's got to take players on edge of the penalty box. That's what you're there for, to take people on, to go to dummy outside. Sorry, to dummy inside, to even take players on the outside. Even just mix it up a little bit rather than just attempting to take on somebody and then just laying it to the side. At Manchester City, that's fine because you usually have somebody coming onto it to hit it. But overall, you've got to get back to what you should be doing.
The interesting thing is that in a team of fetchers and carriers, I mean, he's a carrier, and the reality is that I don't know how many fetchers Everton have got. The quality of players that they've got to get the ball out to him, to put him in the game, is going to be the challenge for him. Whereas he's had the embarrassment of riches because we know that Man City have got players that can do certain things, but he couldn't get into the side. So he can now get into this side, but the fetchers aren't going to be good enough to give him the quality of service. So he might find himself in a bit of a bugger's muddle.
Well, you never know. Rashford to Barcelona, Grealish to Everton. If they both come onto a game, they might well get involved with Tuchel next summer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but you'd have to be doing a lot because there's heavy competition for places. And Rashford going to Barcelona, I didn't see that happening. Well done. Okay. That is, again, up to him. But it's up to the players. And well, it's as simple as that.